In your bio, you talk about the importance of traditional education.
Yes.
And so we'd love to know, what are your thoughts on the current climate of school choice and its impact to public schools?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of traditional public schools. Always have been.
And what does that mean?
So what it means is I grew up from the time I was kindergarten all the way to 12th grade walking to school. And that's all I knew. We didn't have really these charter schools and all of that when I was really growing up. We just had our neighborhood schools that we went to and we progressed through. And so have always been a big proponent and big fan of that. Right now, the state of Florida is moving in a different direction, right? So we're looking at more charter schools and private schools because of course, a voucher program that has been implemented in the state of Florida, where there is now no cap, right? No income cap, and so anybody and everyone has the opportunity to receive a voucher in our state. And that's really draining our traditional public schools as we know it. And so that's why we're seeing a decline in enrollment, because many families are electing to go to charter schools and private schools because of the vouchers. Here's the reality of that. The reality of that is the state of Florida is allowing this to happen with no type of requirements. So we have traditional charter schools being built right next to traditional public schools, and that's hurting our system. And so we have to, hopefully the state of Florida will take a look at that and address that, because it's hurting public schools as we know it.
Thank you. And just a follow-up question. How would you plan to keep public schools an option and attractive in our neighborhoods? Because parents are pulling their kids out for a myriad of reasons.
Absolutely. Here's the reality, Tiffany. Parents are. But when I go to our schools, we have some amazing schools in Duval County. Here's the other reality of that. We have some amazing programs in our schools. If you go to, and I say this all the time, if you go to Fishware has an amazing art program that will lead you to La Villa or Fort Caroline. If you go to John Stockton has an amazing gifted and talented program there, which will lead you to Julian Landon and James Weldon Johnson and some other schools. If you go to Ortega and many of our schools, I can name a plethora of schools within District 5 that you can go to and see that we have some amazing programs and some amazing things happening within those buildings. Unfortunately, we're not telling the story. So we have to be about the business of aggressively marketing our schools where families want to come and we can draw them back in. Charter schools and private schools, as you know, Tiffany, are doing an amazing job of marketing their schools. Duval County has to do the same thing. Gone are the days where neighborhood schools are your number one choice. It's now about competition. And we have to now compete for every student. We have the programs. We have to be able to tell the stories. And if we tell the story about the amazing programs that's happening in our schools, then we can talk about how safe our schools are. But we got to draw them in and we got to get them in the building.
Yeah. And just an added note is we're not just competing with charter and private schools, but
Correct.
I mean, St. Johns County, they
Absolutely.
do a great job of marketing their neighborhoods and their schools as
Absolutely.
well. And so I
Absolutely.
would like to see that light shown on schools like Fishware, who's been wonderful for years. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
You state very clearly in your priorities that neighborhood schools are at the top of your list. I would like to know, what are your thoughts on the current climate of school choice and its impact that it's having on public schools?
All right. My top priority is to fight to keep our local neighborhood public schools open. I believe I'm the only candidate that has definitively said that repeatedly, on record, off record, because I feel like they are holders of rich tradition, rich history. And when you start talking about generations, granted, I know with the Fishware community, with the Stockton Elementary, and not just, it doesn't just start and end there, but it's throughout the county. When you talk to someone from Duval that graduated from a Raines or a Reebok or a Jackson, they feel special, they feel empowered, they feel attached, like their personal identity goes back to that neighborhood, as well as the education that provided that as far as that school that provided that empowering education for them. And then within our district, we have Paxson and Riverside High, and those graduates, those alum, they look forward to sending their children to those schools as well. I know people that actually come to Duval, move to Jacksonville, move to certain neighborhoods and communities because of those high-performing neighborhood public schools. And I don't feel like they should be robbed and or attacked for producing a great product, but have suffered behind poor leadership when it comes to delayed and dilapidated maintenance.
I'm one of those parents. I moved to Avondale so that my daughter could attend Fishware Elementary School. So I definitely resonate with that and support that. My follow-up question is, with school choice, we're seeing the increasing number of parents pulling their kids out of the neighborhood schools for whatever reason. What are your thoughts or strategies on how to keep our community schools open?
All right, my second pillar on my platform is student safety. I don't believe that we're going to win parent support and parent buy-in if we do not secure our schools when it comes to safety. When you look at pulling children out of public school into charter and private school, if children with certain behaviors continue those same behaviors, they dismiss them immediately to keep the culture and the standard of education pertaining to that particular setting high. But with Jacksonville, for some reason, our parents don't necessarily feel safe. I want to increase that safety, partner with local authorities, partner with school resource officers, principals, teachers, and students to let them know that this is a shared accountability and student safety is number one. Another thing I want to share with you pertaining to Jack's Chamber, we have over 600 families that move to Jacksonville on a weekly basis. We are missing out on a huge opportunity to be the first ambassadors of a high standard education with Duval County Public Schools. I want to win those families that are coming into the city the same way that I was able to benefit from a high quality education. I also want those families to do the same. And then when we look at state legislator, when we're looking at those dollars pertaining to PICO, and when they're taking our children from public school into private school, I don't feel that it's fair, open, and honest that if they send that child back, those dollars need to come back as well. Yeah. And then highlighting skilled services. Skilled services, my youngest daughter has special needs. She has a developmental delay. She's currently not in school yet because she's 4. However, when you look at skilled services like speech, if we took her to a private or charter school, she would not be able to receive speech on a daily basis, maybe once a week. But within DCPS, this is something that she can get to empower herself on a daily basis, as well as other skill services that I haven't mentioned, but I'm just trying to wrap it up in the time frame that you're asking me to. But Duval County Public Schools does provide those skilled services that you're not going to find in any other competitor. And I want our families to know that, listen, DCPS should be the first option and not an alternative option.
Thank you for that. You mentioned in your preliminary questions, thank you for completing those, that you see the trend of parents removing their kids from Duval public schools. And you have a unique perspective from your military background. So what are your thoughts on the current climate of school closure, of school choice, and how it's impacting our public schools?
Okay, as far as the school, I'll take it one at a time. The school closure, I am not for closing schools. I'm not. However, when you dive into the financial aspect, a lot of things haven't been done right. And it wasn't through the Greens administration. It goes way back. This can has been kicked down for a long time, so there's no one person you can point at. But one of the biggest problems is the budget. People they always say, Reggie, what about teachers' pay? Listen, The teachers' pay is a legislative process. That's not nothing the school board can do, with the exception of the $200 million that they approved through the legislature for incentive. I would like to see the teachers' pay elevated. But as far as the school closures, I know they're still in phase one. And I think it's something that needs to be carefully looked at, because anytime you talk about closing the schools because of the population, this school has a population of 1,200, but there are only 600 in the school. When you merge these schools, filter them in to one school, like a middle school, onto, say, Ed White, what I didn't see is the calculation of growth. If you look, as developers pretty much run the city, if you look at the apartments just popping up everywhere, huge complexes,
Yes.
has the population growth been included in that plan? Because now you put them together, you have a feeder, and now you have overcrowded schools. And then you have to talk about either building new schools or opening up schools. I think it's a problem that needs to be looked at. I am concerned about the data based on the master facilities plan that I looked at, and I'm glad the neighborhoods and the parents are very involved. I mean, that's a good thing. So right now, as far as looking at that, I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done before we do. I don't think anything should be closed yet until a really deep dive, including in transportation, a lot of things that they really didn't talk about as much are looked at and implemented, and have a plan B too, not just one. So I think that's what needs to happen.
Can you speak briefly about how school choice is impacting this?
School choice, decades ago, especially in the black community, we were dissatisfied with the public schools. We said, our kids are not learning, we're in these bad schools. Why do other communities get to have good schools? So I think that's where, over the decades, school choice came in at. People wanted to have a choice. I am certainly not one to tell a parent, no, you're gonna stay at this school, that's the only choice you have, and just dig in. That is not acceptable. I do believe in school choice. However, I believe there should be some strict guidelines. When the charter schools come into place, a school such as, I think, Biscayne, they work more parallel with the school board, not just an independent school. Because after all, you have kids that get in trouble, and these are the kids that go to that school because they want to give them a second chance, because you don't want to throw them on the streets. I do think there is an impact, but what I want to know is the real impact. How much money really is being taken away? And when a kid goes to the charter school and they decide, I don't want my child in charter school anymore, that doesn't work, they have already paid out money. Where does that block fit in when that child goes back to the public school? I think legislative, they say there's nothing. The charter schools just have the money, and I think that's unacceptable. Yeah. They need to create legislation that says once that kid goes back to the public schools, that block of money needs to go back with them. So I think it does have an impact, but I don't know if it's that critical.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to, dig in there a little bit more. How do you plan to keep public schools an option and attractive for our neighborhood? So parents are pulling their kids out of public school, whether they return back later, but they're pulling them out for a reason. How do we make our schools more attractive in our neighborhoods?
Well, first of all, the public school have to look within themselves and say why are children leaving. Okay, this is a multifaceted look. Schools have to be improved. The public schools have got to rise in their level. If they're doing the academics, they have got to come up to an acceptable standard. Too many teachers are telling me, Reggie, these kids can't read. That's what parents are looking at. And that's the little dark thing that nobody really wants to talk about. They can't read, so people have a right to pull their children out. The marketing of public schools has to increase. The beautification of public schools has to increase. We have to show the public, this is why your child needs, because charter schools aren't going anywhere right now. And that's a whole nother story as to why. But we have to get to a point where we're showing the public, this is why the public schools are a better option. They have a wider range of options, including a wider range of programs, the trades, and those who want to go into academics. I don't know if you've ever seen this documentary called Saving Superman, Waiting on Superman, a very good documentary about the history of public schools. I think that's something everybody should look at and tell you why we have gotten to this point. But beautifying the schools, bringing up the standards, giving better options, partnering with Florida State College because they have a lot of resources and programs that they cut out. Why? Because they don't have anybody. Partner with the schools and say, we can provide more trade options.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Tell me the name of that documentary again.
It's
I
called
love documentary.
Waiting on Superman.
Okay.
The excellent documentary on a history of our public schools.
Okay. Thank you.